The story of the Harley Davidson. I was sitting at my farm contemplating whether to buy the tractor from the farmer next door, and he was giving it to me quite cheap. It was a really good buy. However, a few years before, in the band, a rock band that I was in, we had written a song called Cruising on My Harley, and the Harley Davidson 100th anniversary was just starting to come up, that I'd noticed, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And so I thought I might take the Harley Davidson song over to Milwaukee and have a break and show the Milwaukee people there how of the song that we wrote about their motorcycle. So I actually went into the real estate, the travel agent, down there, and told them I wanted to go to Wisconsin. And they said when, and I said, well, straight away. And I had a ticket actually leaving Tasmania the next day, and I travelled over to the US almost straight away, and I ended up in Milwaukee. As it was about 100 degrees the day I arrived in Milwaukee, I got out of the train and I walked across the road under this big bypass. I saw a homeless man sitting on the gutter with ripped clothes, covered in ripped clothes, and he had a little sign in front of him saying, "Please help." And I walked over to him and I stood in front of him, and it was a bit unusual for me not to say hello or how are you, mate, or anything. But I looked at him and I realised that nobody could be dressed like this. The clothes were too wrecked and scattered. I've lived and spent months in the slums of Bangkok and other places, and I knew nobody. I'd never seen anybody with such rags. And so I was looking at him and I said to him, "Mate, why don't you get a new pair of pants?" And he looked at me and said back, "Why don't you get a haircut?" And I looked down, and underneath, in little writing along the bottom of the sign, it had, "I need a beer." And I realised that I'd been, a bit uncomfortable, unruly with him, or rude to him in a way. And I said, "Where can I get you a beer?" And he said, up round the corner, up round the road. So up I went to get him a beer. I went into the drugstore and got him a can of beer. And I went to pay for it. The bloke behind the counter said 50 cents. I said, 50 cents? And he said, yeah. I said, how much for a 6-pack? And he said, $2.50. And they were quite big cans of beer. Quite strong. I said, well, I can give me a 6-pack. So I got the 6-pack and took it back to my friend sitting under the expressway. While I was there talking to him, one of his friends arrived, an ex-Marine, dressed in army gear, homeless, drunk. Came up and said, "What's going on?" I could hardly talk. And I sort of introduced myself, and he was a friend of my other friend, sitting under the bridge. And I said, "Oh, well, I'm in America. I brought a song over for them to listen to." And he said, "Oh, okay." And I put my headphones on and let him hear it. And he said, "That's really good. Let's take it to the radio station." So we went up the road and we got on a bus, and he took me to, which turned out to be the biggest radio station in Milwaukee. Saturday afternoon, we walked up into the office, and there's a big counter there with a few girls behind it. And he walked over and he sort of started, he was drunk. He was saying, Harley, drunk, Australian, couldn't make sense out of anything, hardly. Girls couldn't understand. And I started to try to say, look, I'm from Australia. I bought a song here, you know, we want it, you know, see if you want to play it. And they couldn't understand me because of my Australian accent. And I looked around, and there was quite a big circle of glass on the wall with "on air" written above it. And there were some faces looking at me through it. And a big fella came out, and he walked up to me and he said, yeah, I'm the DJ here. He said, what's going on? And I said, oh, I've come over, we've got this CD cruising on my Harley. And I met this fella downtown, and he brought me up here so we can just drop one off and see if you like it. And he said, how did you get here? And I said, well, I left Tasmania and I got the ship across, and then I got the train up, and I flew from Sydney to Los Angeles, and I flew from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then from Seattle I went to Vancouver, and from Vancouver I got a night flight to Windsor, Canada, to Toronto actually, to Toronto. Then I got the train from Toronto to Windsor, where I got out and got a Greyhound bus under the river into Detroit. And then I got the Greyhound from Detroit to New York. And then I got the train from New York to Washington. And from Washington I got a train to Chicago this morning. And this morning I got the train from Chicago to Milwaukee. And I just got here, and I just met these fellas, and they brought me here. And he looked at me and he said, if you've done that, we're going to go and play this song right now on the radio. And I had found fellas later on, because I was there for 4 months in Milwaukee, that had been trying to get songs on that radio station for 15 years. And I'd been there in an hour and a half, and it was playing. And I got quite a few phone calls of people wanting me to come up to the mountains and come and show me Wisconsin. And it's all started from there. And while the summer festival was on, I met quite a few businessmen, and they all told me it's impossible to get anywhere near Harley Davidson because of the layers of solicitors and everything like that. And so I said, well, you know, like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep on going. I'll just see where it goes. And they started to play it on Fox of a morning. People used to say to me, oh, I heard your song on Fox this morning, and the radio. And I don't actually know how I managed to be sitting at these large tables with all these most popular businessmen in Milwaukee. Some of them own 6 of the biggest record shops and CD shops and clothes shops. They're all at a big table, and I was there eating with them, having lunch of a day. They all used to say, oh, how are you going? You getting anywhere, you know, with your music and that? And I'd say, oh, I don't know, sometimes, you know, I'm getting a bit, you know, things are happening, I'm dropping them off and going places. And they all used to say, yeah, well, you know, you won't get anywhere near Harley Davidson. So anyway, I was walking, I stayed with some homeless people because it was quite funny. The bank where I'm with in Australia, the Westpac, I went to get some money out in Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee, and it said no funds, so I didn't have any money. And I rang them. I had about $50 worth of those big American $1 coins that I'd been saving, silver dollars, and I cashed some of them. I rang the Westpac bank, and they said, oh, every 3 years we issue you with new cards. your new cards would be in the letterbox. I said, yeah, except I'm in the middle of America. So I started getting to know more and more homeless people, and I was actually with them, and it was an absolute classic, the way some of the things were working out and who I was meeting. And we were walking down the street at about 5 o'clock one Sunday morning, me and this other fella, dead quiet everywhere, and a woman jumped out right in front of us out of the hedge with a tray of bagels and said, would you like some breakfast? And we said, oh, well, thanks, and we got to it. She says, why don't you come in, we're having an early church meeting in here. So we thought, yeah, okay. So we went into the church, and who did I end up sitting next to was the CEO of Harley Davidson. And when I went back and had lunch with all the businessmen on that Sunday, they asked me what I'd been doing. And I said, I've been having breakfast with the CEO of Harley Davidson. And to make a long story short, the song was chosen for the Harley Davidson 100th anniversary documentary. It goes for about an hour and 3/4. Through Steve Ewing at Milwaukee. And it just goes to show you that if you walk with the Lord, He fills your life with surprises, and He overcomes everything that people tell you that can't be done, and you don't even have to try, because if He's around, He just sorts it out for you. Amen.